welcome back to regular viewers, that is. And if you stumbled across this for the first time, it's great to be with you. This is Going to Ground, a series of short reflections during this most extraordinary year. We had began in March, and I think we're on number 164 or 5, something like that. We had a short break over the summer. And my name's Andrew Rumsey. I'm the Bishop of Ramsbury, which sounds a little like a Thomas Hardy novel, but is actually a role in the Church of England. Ramsbury, for those of you not in the beautiful county of Wiltshire, is a little village not far from here in Marlborough, and used to have a really significant role as a trading post and a centre of commerce along the route from London to Bath, and was much more significant in that sense than it is now, although it's still lovely. And therefore the bishopric of this region took its name from Ramsbury. And then that ran up to something like, I think, 1075. And then they had a 900-year break to get over the previous one, and reinstated the title in the church in the mid-70s. And here I am. So it's great to be with you again. Church of England today remembers the hymn writer Isaac Watts, who penned some of the most beautiful lines that are sung in churches to this day, and most famously When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, and his other greatest hit, O God, Our Help in Ages Past, which started out as Our God, Our Help in Ages Past. Interesting footnote. And that's how it's written in my book of religious poetry, but we usually sing it with the O. Two of the greatest hymns, really. And I wanted not to read those, because to people who have been involved in the church, those are wonderful but very familiar. And I'm going to read to you instead, There is a Land of Pure Delight. Now, there's a book to be written about the history of heaven in our culture. Maybe somebody's already written it, I don't know. You can let me know if they have. But the role and the kind of changing face and changing place of heaven in our history. Because we've imagined heaven in different ways, inspired principally by the biblical visions of heaven, like in the last book of the Bible, Revelation. And the themes and images from that inspire our hymns and so on, and thoughts and imagination of heaven. But the way it's placed within our culture as an inspiration and something that's shaped the place we aspire to be has really changed over the years. And I have a theory that heaven, in times of, generally speaking, settled life, heaven becomes almost blurred in our imagination with this world, and when we look around us, or in a hymn like For the Beauty of the Earth, for the beauty of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. In a hymn like that, there's a sense of the glory and the heavenliness of an earthly paradise. And we're thanking God for the glorious place that we live in. But at times of crisis, when earth is more hellish than heavenly, there's a sort of separating out in our imagination of heaven, and heaven becomes something, a golden shore, but a more distant shore that we want to escape to and fly to. And we see that in the way that Christian songs, religious songs have changed in different cultures. So for the spirituals and songs of the 19th century, sung very often by those who were experiencing oppression and slavery, there's a sense of heaven being somewhere to escape to, that we really want to get to, but it's not like here. So one bright morning when this life is over, I'll fly away. And there's a sense of already having one foot there, and you can almost get there, but it's not here. And of course, after the First World War, there was a great outpouring of national grief in this country and other countries around the world. And again, heaven came into very clear focus, but it was so obvious that this life had become grievous and hellish in so many ways that again, people needed to envisage heaven as somewhere that you could, that people actually did dwell, and you could get to. And so you have poems like "Death is Nothing at All," as it's often called, which is a more complex poem than it's often than the bit we often read at funerals. So the place of heaven, what I'm trying to say, it changes according to our experience of earth, and its importance takes on new meaning at different times. So Jerusalem's a classic example of a hymn that has been adopted by all sorts of political causes, right and left, but again is somewhere that blurs the distinction between earth and heaven, until we have built Jerusalem in England's green and pleasant land. So this is a hymn aspiring for the betterment of the earthly place. And I love it for that reason. It's one of my very favourite hymns. But There is a Land of Pure Delight, returning to Isaac Watts, is not a hymn I know very well. And to be honest, I can't remember singing it. And I didn't immediately warm to the lyrics, and so think listen to it and see what you think. But it is full of the desire for heaven, and a sense of it being closer than we might think. Anyway, I'll read it. There is a land of pure delight, where saints immortal reign. Infinite day excludes the night, and pleasures banish pain. There everlasting spring abides, and never withering flowers. Death like a narrow sea divides this heavenly land from ours. Sweet fields, beyond the swelling flood, stand dressed in living green. So to the Jews old Canaan stood, while Jordan rolled between. But timorous mortals start and shrink to cross this narrow sea, and linger shivering on the brink. Lovely line. Linger shivering on the brink, and fear to launch away. Oh, could we make our doubts remove, these gloomy doubts that rise, and see the Canaan that we love with unbeclouded eyes. Could we but climb where Moses stood, and view the landscape o'er, not Jordan's stream, nor death's cold flood, should fright us from the shore. What do you make of that? It's a hymn essentially about not fearing death, isn't it? With some beautiful lines. I tend to have fairly beclouded eyes when it comes to seeing clearly the heaven that we hope for. I'm inspired by the climax of Scripture where heaven descends to earth and earth rises to meet heaven, and a new creation is formed. That's at the heart of my worldview and what I hope for. I am, naturally speaking, less at home with the idea of escaping the earth to live in another realm. I hope for the union of heaven and earth. But you might, and both are evident in the scriptural account. What do you think? Wherever you are, and whether your situation feels a little bit like an earthly paradise or somewhat like the other place this evening, may God bless you as you go to ground.